Hello, and welcome once again to another episode of The Naked Turner. Today I have chucked up a piece of maple, and it's about a 5.5, 6-inch long by 1 3/4 square piece of maple that I blanked up, and I'm going to start turning it into round. This piece I am actually making something that I utilize for things like saffron, or a term that I have created called an Empartment vessel, which can be used for all different types of things, but one of the items that I envision it being used for is to take a dearly departed loved one's ashes to special places around the world and be able to put a little bit of the ash in the top of this Empartment container and close it back up and then scatter those ashes to the four corners of the wind. So I'm going to show you how I make those now. Hope you enjoy. Okay, I have my tailstock brought in to my center, and I have my piece chucked up real nice and tight. I like to make sure that when I'm tightening, I tighten, I spin, I tighten, make sure it's equally tightened so that the four jaws of your chuck are equally engaged on your piece. You don't want anything happening here where this piece might let go. That's also part of why, as long as I can, I have the tailstock mounted in. At some point I will be removing that to do some turning into the end grain of this piece to create the top of the canister. So, safety gear, and I'm going to have this spinning up right around 1,000 RPM to start out. My rough and gouge. Still a little bit square side there. Okay, got it. Switching to my skew. There we go. Alright, so I've moved my tool rest around, removed my tailstock, moved my tool rest around, and now I'm going to be working on hollowing out the inside, just fairly shallow inside of this bowl here. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to be shaping the outside of this little mini bowl that will be the top of this container. And I will start by using my small bowl and spindle gouge. Okay, that looks good. Now I'll square off the shoulder a little bit with my narrow parting tool. Okay. Alright. That's the rough shape I'm looking for the top of this. And now, so So now what I'll be doing is sanding this, turning this part into a lid for this little canister. And now I'm going to be doing a little sanding, like I was saying. I've been using the Empartment and I really like it. Okay, and that's good for now until I go to do my final sand. I'll do one up to 320 and that'll be good. Okay, so now I'm going to be starting the parting of the top, or the lid. I go in with my parting tool, about 1/8 of an inch, just kind of eyeballing it. And again, then I ever so slightly taper the shape of the lid so it's a slight taper. There we go. Okay, and okay, then what I like to do once I've established that shoulder here, make sure I have a taper going on. That looks good. Then I leave a tiny little bit of that shoulder on the canister side so that I know exactly where I left off at. And one of my viewers mentioned that I had forgotten to show that process, so I just taper this down a little bit more. Okay, now leaving a little bit on the shoulder there. So you can see, hopefully, there's a little bit of the shoulder left on the canister, and I'll show that once I part this piece off. But first I want to finish all that. Alright, I just sanded it to 320 on this top portion mainly. As the bottom I'm still going to be working a little bit. And now I'll apply some of my shellac and wax that I make, which you can see on my video called the Friction Rub Finish, Naked Turner Friction Rub Finish. Anyway, I like this because it's real fast. I can just put on some, and it goes on a lot better with cotton than paper. Sometimes the paper will stick in it and you'll get little fuzzy inclusions in your finish from whatever type of paper you're using, so I prefer to use a very small piece of cotton rag. And there we go. That's almost there. Doesn't take long with this finish. That's the nice thing. You get a real nice sheen very, very quickly, and it dries real fast. I'll put a little bit more right down in here. Okay, that's looking really good. Just a little bit down here. Let me see what's going on. Okay, there we go. That's the beginning of the finish. I'll put one more coat on once I've parted this off. I'll probably put a little bit more on right here, but you don't need to watch all of that, so I won't bore you with that. I'm going to be parting the top off of the canister itself. So I'll bring in my tool rest nice and close, and then safety gear. And then I will be holding my tool with my left hand so that I don't have to reach across and grabbing the top that will be parting off with my right hand. And there we go. There you have it. Then I'll just be sanding that little nub off and hollowing out the inside here. And to sand this nub off, I take it over to my stationary sander, give it a quick sand off, and then do a hand sanding up to 320 grit. Okay, so now I've brought my tailstock up with a Forstner bit and my drill chuck in my Morris 2 taper. So I have, let's see, I'm going to measure how deep overall this is, 3.5. So I could go about 3 1/4 inches deep. We'll say 3 3/16 inches deep. So I have my tailstock set at 0 right now. I'm clamped down. I'm about 1/16 of an inch away from cutting the shoulder. So I know that I can go 3 1/4 inches on my tailstock, and that will give me a 3 3/16 inch depth of cut. So that's how I'm going to do this. Sometimes I will I'll actually do this by hand, but you want to make sure that you're totally centered in here. And I'm just going to turn this on real slow. I like to go slow when I'm doing this anyway because, okay, so I can see I'm just a little bit out of center. Doesn't have to be perfect because I'm not done sanding yet anyway. And with this bit, I still have a good, about 1/16 of an inch to go, more hollowing. So this is just getting me close. So I have this down around 100 RPM right now. And I'm just going to bore this out. So that'll take me about 1.5 minutes to bore that out. So rather than continue shooting, I'm going to just stop because I'm running low on battery. Okay, so there it is, hollowed out. Now what I'll do is I will take my tool rest, slide it up nice and close here. Lock it off, bring this up just below center for this. Then I'll be doing a little bit of hand sculpting like this on the outside edge to get rid of that little shoulder that you can see I left there on the edge of this. And that shoulder shows me pretty much exactly where I want to stop so that my lid will have a nice tight fit. And then if I'm stopping at a slight taper, that enables me to sand the surface of the canister down ever so slightly to achieve a very nice snug fit because the taper is getting tighter on the inside of the canister. So that's what I'm going to start doing now. Alright, so bringing this up to about 1,000 RPM, and then very slowly start tapering this. Okay, and so there I am. I'm almost at the edge of that wall. So now what I like to do is do the rest of that by sanding. And I'll show you the fit I achieved in just a few minutes. So you can see how there's just this tiniest little bit of a lip here, maybe like a 100th of an inch lip here that's basically showing me where the edge of my tenon was for the lid. So now, as you can see, I've just made a little bit of a taper in here on this edge, and I'm going to start sanding and then fitting my top, and I'll show you how that all comes together. Okay, so I have the top made and fitted, and that was just done by sanding and checking and sanding and checking. Now I'm lining up the grain again. I have a nice pop fit on that. It's real tight. It's going to loosen up a little because right now it's been freshly done, and usually they get a little tiny bit looser. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to be utilizing this tool, which I made just out of a piece of steel, just regular old mild steel, and I sharpened it on 3 sides and gave it a real nice sharp point. And I'm just going to be making a little indentation so that I can use my burner, my burning wire, and burn a couple lines in this to give it a little detailing. Okay, so I'm going to come down about 1/4 of an inch from my top. And just put a little V-groove in there. And then come over about 1/4 of an inch more. Put a secondary V-groove in. Okay. And I'm going to come down here near the bottom about 1/2 inch from my finished bottom. Put one more little V-groove there. And it looks like this one has to be a little bit bigger. And so does that one. Okay, now I'm going to come in first. We'll stop this and move my tool rest out of the way. Give myself some working room. Okay, now I have a wire burner that I made out of a couple pieces of oak and an old guitar string. I'm using this one because it's wound, and I'd get a nice burn real fast on all edges instead of just like down in the bottom. So I come in like this. You want to make sure you get in the groove and not around the groove. And as you can see, it starts burning real quick. I like to get a nice dark burn. Same thing on this one. And then last one. And there we go. Okay, then what I'll be doing is coming back over that with my 400 grit sandpaper just to get rid of the little edge that might have been created. And then I'll just lay that grain back down, or that fuzz back down, with a little 400 grit. And tiny bit right down in each one of those grooves just for a second. Okay, and real quick, because I'm really running out of battery fast here, this camera is kind of funny because you can't plug it in while you're shooting. It will not allow you to have an AC power adapter plugged into it. It will only run off of its battery. So anyway, I'm just going to real quick show you what this will look like and then part it off. Alright, so there it is. Empartment container. So the last thing I'll be doing is parting the bottom off so that I have a finished piece, and then I'll show you some still images. Thanks for watching. Alright, Okay, so now I'm going to be parting this off. Okay, I'm going to turn it down just a hair. Left-handed cube or parting tool. And there we have it. Okay, I'll be taking that over to my stationary sander, get rid of that little end nub and the darkening from the shellac, and that should be a finished product. Oh yeah, nice fit. Very tight. Okay, here it is. Bottom sanded off. Finished piece. Turned out good. Real happy. It sounds to me like the 49er game is coming on, so I'm finished here. I'm going to go watch the Niner game. Thanks for watching. Finished Empartment container.